Okay, so today we'll be talking about a topic that's really close to my heart, which is owning your career. Now, we've all heard it. Why do we need to own our career? And of course, I own my career, but let's be honest, we know that it isn't going to be done for you. I work with a lot of professionals at all levels, and they genuinely struggle with understanding what it means to truly own your career. And in a nutshell, for me, it's all about encouraging you to become the CEO of your own career rather than becoming a backseat sort of driver and letting other people or other circumstances push you forward and make you go in a direction you don't want to go. So it's about instilling that I own it mentality and recognizing that that's quite scary. And so, what we'll do is just maybe go a little bit around why it's important, hopefully leave you with something to try and practice so that you really move forward. And that would be my hope for this. So the most obvious thing about this is we spend most of our life working in some shape or form. And it's a shame when I speak to people and they've sort of gone through a career and actually not had much of an opportunity to own it. So it's really super important that you do focus on the direction that you're heading and that you are using it as a tool to motivate you rather than a tool to demotivate you, because it's scary, because suddenly there's no one else making decisions for you. It's you making decisions for you. Quite simply, I like to call it breathing, because you have to breathe for yourself. You can't get passed out onto somebody else. It's really, really important that you take the time to see your own career as your breath, and to understand that careers, now we're in a very great space where we could have different types of careers. People are shifting and changing, and setting yourself up to support this change within yourself is also very, very important to your career. What does it mean when you say, oh, own it and do start to manage your career? Well, it's easy to say, right? So it's now time to sort of really get going and start to think, right, what actions do I need to take to get to the place that I want to be? Now, for some people, this might be bigger than others, and that's fine. Main thing to do is to really look at yourself honestly and see, am I where I want to be? And if not, then what needs to change? And if I am, what more do I need to do to be better? So really, really important if you're doing this from an individual perspective. Obviously, it's really important to see it from an organizational perspective. We all understand or heard the term entrepreneur, and this is all about businesses fostering individuals to create that change, to drive performance, to create a competitive edge, so that the organization can really set itself apart from the competition. In an organization who doesn't want people who are self-aware, who have drive and take a real personal responsibility for their growth, owning your career is a win-win for everyone. I guess when we use the term organization, there isn't a one size fits all. There are many different types of organizations. And I guess for the purpose of today, I'll be picking the two main ones. First one is a more corporate organization. These are organizations that have well-versed structures, they have learning pathways, they generally have systems in place and quite a mature model that supports people in their career growth within the organization. And then we also look at sort of the medium size. These could be family businesses. These could be organizations that have offshoots of regional presence within the business. And their focus is much more visionary. They're really looking at how can they be different and, how do they set themselves apart? And so two very sort of different styles of business. But if we look at this at an organizational level, and I'll start with corporate first, we've all been there. We've all been in jobs. I've been in these situations personally, where you struggle with time, right? So what do I focus on? Do I focus on getting the job done, or do I focus on going where I want to go? And if you are a leader or a manager, then that just gets much, much bigger, because then you're also dependent on other people and driving others. So it's really, really important that organizations recognize that their people are under a lot of pressure. Secondly, I guess an organizational challenge at the sort of corporate level is about prioritizing the learning. role modeling, taking that time. Overarchingly, this is about prioritization, and really, really important that as organizations, you don't see the learning as a separate thing, and that you see it as an important kind of thing that's connected to your work. And if you're seeing it from an organizational perspective, that you make sure that the learning is connected to the person's work. The other thing that's challenging at an organizational level is mindsets. People are, we've got many generations, Gen Z, baby bloomers, Gen X, millennials, so many together. How do we get them to learn, and in a way that is cohesive and impactful to the business? So again, a very important challenge that businesses are dealing with. And focus, where do we ask our people to focus? Do we ask them to focus on getting the job done, or do we actually give them a chance to develop, and therefore the progress and the ROI will come, but it'll take time. So the challenge is the timing element of when. And then finally, I guess, and I've been in many, many rooms and many, many meetings where people are asking me, well, what's the point? We did this massive thing and nothing happened. And I think as people development professionals or even consultancies, they really struggle sometimes to translate what the actual return on investment is, or what the return on engagement is. And I'm not saying that we don't have mechanisms to show this. I feel like those mechanisms need to be well understood by the business. So there is that challenge of, well, what's the point? So definitely a big one there. And I think when we look at it at the medium level, which is the family businesses, here, because of their agile nature, they may struggle with, having a cohesive strategy. Things are brought in as per the growth, and they may not always connect. So, at times there might be a disjointed strategy that they might be dealing with. So it's, I think for the medium, this challenge is about keeping it simple but effective, and making sure that it's not so scattered, so that people don't kind of get learning fatigue. And finally, budget, where do we put the money? So always a challenge, I think, across most businesses, but definitely something that would be more of a consideration for the medium-sized businesses. So the easiest thing is to take the fuss out of it and keep it simple, and have a conversation. Have that conversation with yourself. If there's no one else, have that conversation with someone you trust, or have that conversation if you are, if you have a coach or a mentor, have the conversation with someone where you're at, what you're struggling with, what's going on. Because sometimes if we haven't thought about it, we could get into our heads a little bit, get out of that misconception of where you see yourself, and break that barrier between where you think you are and where you actually are. Ask yourself some questions. What does it look like if you are happier, if you are more involved, if you're not in a place that you're happy with? And, what do you need to do to make kind of what is in your head a reality? And finally, if nothing else is kind of coming to your mind, then what would be the cost of not doing anything? Really think about that question, and think, if I do not do anything, what's going to be the impact here? One thing I really like to suggest people to do, which is what I call a career health check here. Really important for you to ask yourself where you're at, what are your strengths, what energizes you. Think about the environments where you flourish, think about the environments where you don't, and then, start to really build almost a job description of what it is that really drives you. Now, it might sound crazy, and we might all suffer from job description fatigue at some point. Some are better than others at writing them, but nobody's judging here. Take a minute to sit and write that job that you want to do within the next year, asking yourself those simple questions that we ask ourselves. Where are you going to be now? What is it that you want to do? What is the support? Who do you want to be liaising with? What kind of accountability do you want? How much energy do I really have also to dedicate to this? Be realistic here. A couple of tools that come on the top of my mind that I think will be great for you is there's a website called Find My Why, and they give you what's called a psychological selfie, and you really get a chance to understand your values. You get an understanding of, what really drives you in a business. So a quick stop shop is a great place to start. And if you're sitting within an organization and you're thinking, okay, what could TPCL do for me here? then I would ask, are you giving people the space to really look at their career and actively manage the career? And if that's a yes, that's brilliant. And then the question would be, well, where is that built into your succession planning, and how are you succession planning within your organization at, you know, the junior levels as well as the mid as well as the senior? And yes, there should be some succession planning for senior people as well. And a final one, that's one that I use, and I think it's brilliant, is to write a note for your future self. So you choose the time period. That could be 3 months, that could be 6 months. What do you want to say to them about where you want to be, your goals, your aspirations, your current challenges, so that when you look at that note in a year's time or a 6 months' time, it will give you a great reminder of the progress that you've made. If not progress, it'll give you a great sort of push, hopefully, to do something at that moment in time. I guess the biggest challenge, whether you're looking at it at a people level or a organizational level, is to ensure that people don't stagnate. And that is what TPC leadership is here for. It's to support you and your business to drive your people forward so that you have an engaged workforce, you have a culture that drives performance in a healthy way. One of the things that is central to TPCL's sort of methodology and thinking is the people-centric approach. It's about acknowledging the brain as well as the heart and really co-creating solutions. So if you think about, you know, working with TPC leadership, you will get an experience that will be very, very different as compared to what you have experienced already. They're acknowledging the emotional cost of, you know, what's going on with your people. They are looking at how to support them in a way that really works with them. And, you know, if you're thinking about this at an individual level, really important that you understand that if you do not focus on yourself, there is an emotional cost for you personally. Not feeling happy where you are and not having a way to get out of it can also lead to stress, anxiety, fatigue, and in some ways just, you know, could kick into like health conditions and stuff. So really important that you work with a professional body that's very much invested in the individual and is able to approach interventions at very different levels and isn't afraid to look at the emotional aspect, which I think is really, really, really critical. If, as an organization, you are wanting an engaged workforce that is impacting positively on your culture and creating productivity and giving you that competitive strength and success that you're looking for within your industry, really, really important that you do get in touch with us and have a conversation with us. We will be more than happy to just understand. Firstly, we want to understand what the leaders are saying, understand what's going on, what are the strategies, and then we want to understand what your people are saying and what's going on, and then connect those two together to hopefully give you a solution that truly will resonate with what it is that you are looking for. So the main thing that I really want you to think about and understand is that you're not alone. Many people are struggling right now and always are, because this is a difficult one. You know, trying to simplify and understand what's happening in your career is not easy. You know, simple isn't easy. But just because it's difficult doesn't mean that you don't take that step, and doesn't mean that you just give yourself a reason not to do anything. Take a minute to really understand what is your immediate need, what needs to happen today or this week or next week that will help you move within the direction that you need to go. And now, if you're a business, the same question applies. What needs to change in your business? What is it that isn't happening? Or what is happening but isn't giving you the desired effect? If anything, give yourself time, no matter what your situation is. If you are a business owner, if you are an individual in a role, or if you are currently in between careers, make sure you just take that time to stop and pause. One last little thing for me to really leave you with as a technique is to, you know, quotes hugely inspiring for many, many people. And if you struggle with reflection, then take a minute to look at what quote is resonating with you now and take a minute to reflect on it. What about that quote is actually resonating with you now? and why this quote. There's something it's telling you there that you need to understand. So take a minute today, find that quote that's resonating with you. And finally, remember that owning your career, it is not a buzzword. It's really important that you make it an integral part of your life and your career so that it's sustainable and that you are moving consciously in the direction that you want to go.